Good evening, everyone. A very snowy evening. Glad to see everyone has made it safely. Hope everyone makes it home safely as well. It is the appointed hour. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the second monthly meeting for the Township Council for Admaston Bromley. I would ask everyone to join with me to open this evening's meeting in the observation of a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I would now seek a motion to approve tonight's agenda. I believe, Councillor Field, you may be in possession.
Moved by myself, seconded by Kevin Legree. Be it resolved that Council approve the agenda of January 19th, 2023 regular Council meeting.
Council, you've heard the resolution. All in favor? That is carried. I would invite at this point any disclosure of pecuniary interest and, if any, the general nature thereof, please. I recognize none. I'd now seek, once again, I believe, Councillor Field, you have a motion on the minutes of our January 5th council meeting.
Moved by myself, seconded by Kevin Legree. Be it resolved that Council adopt the following minute meetings: January 5th, 2023 regular Council meeting.
Thank you. Council, you've had opportunity to review the minutes. Any errors or omissions? I see none. All in favor? Carried. There are no delegations or guests this evening. We will go directly into the Planning and Economic Development Committee report. I would invite Councillor Gourley to take us through that, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Brian Hamilton. Be it resolved that Council approve bylaw 2023-02, being a bylaw to appoint a committee of adjustment for the Township of Admaston Bromley.
Thank you, Councillor Gourley. Council, you've had opportunity to review the...
I need to make a correction on the motion, sir.
Oh,
I made a
okay.
mistake.
Just in the nicka.
It's bylaw 2023-08. No, it's my fault. It was a... It was originally 2023-02, but we didn't have one of the members of the Committee of Adjustments did not run a return. So I'm not sure if you saw it on social media, but we advertised for a member and we did have someone come forth. And so we had to wait until this meeting. It wasn't time to appoint at our first meeting in January, so we're appointing now.
Makes eminent sense. Thank you for the update, Ms. Charkaby. Council, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Back to you, Councillor Gourley.
No, it's Councillor Hamilton.
Oh, sure enough, it is Councillor Hamilton, the resolution, and then I will invite you if there's anything you wish to speak to on your committee. Councillor Hamilton.
Moved by myself, second by Mr. Councillor Gourley. Be it resolved that the council accept the building and sewage reports as information.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hamilton. Anything you wish to draw specific attention to, Councillor Gourley?
Nothing on my end, no.
All right, thank you. Councillor, any questions, comments? I think I'm fairly certain this will be the final, I'm sure, building and sewage report. So there was actually one more non-residential, but still of substantial value, and it's imprecise, but almost double last year. I think that is certainly exceptional growth, particularly given the challenges of, now I don't know the numbers themselves, if you look at the second chart, don't seem to be substantially at variance with last year, but certainly the value does, and I suppose that that's as much reflective perhaps as the cost of building supplies. But just the same, I'm very pleased to see continuing growth. With that, council, all in favor? That is carried. Oh, I see what you did here now. Yeah, so you just stuck one Councillor Hamilton right in the middle of a bunch of Councillor Gurley's there. Got it. I'd have to study that a little closer. So, Councillor Gurley.
Moved by myself, seconded by Brian Hamilton, be it resolved that Admaston Bromley Council accept in principle consent application B84/22 submitted by Carl W. Schroeder, so long as requirements of commenting agencies are satisfied.
Thank you once again, Councillor Gurley. Council, any questions or comments? I note, it seems to be the day of speaking towards merging, that this seems to be essentially re-establishing two distinct lots that I'm assuming the proponents were unaware had become one. It does seem odd, particularly given, I believe, in the report there's a residence on each one of these. I'm kind of astonished that they actually merged.
Yeah, the residents were not impressed as well and had to go through the process. We're learning a lot about how properties merge, and it sometimes doesn't seem to make sense. I'm not sure when the other building went up on it, but it's been merged for a while, and they were not aware either.
Yeah, it also, I'll be very careful because I know that there is some complexity. I don't know if we've had them come to this township, but I've certainly seen them on a couple of different occasions at the county where it's like an area of land about the size of this laptop computer that is kept separate so as to inhibit merging. But there's also a principle of once a severance, always a severance. So it seems that I am confounded every time this comes in front of us. The only other question that I had, and it appears on both of these, so I note that from a staff perspective, in the process that puts it in front of us today, both the CBO and the road superintendent provide comments, but early in the report, and I'm a little bit challenged to find the particular page, but I note that it says favorable comments were received from the township. So that seems to me that that's what we are doing today, or at least if not providing favorable comments, we are accepting in principle, so to speak. So the favorable comments, are they in reference to the Public Works and the CBO?
They're in reference to the Public Works and CBO, but also the other commenting agencies that they would have to circulate. So they would have received those back as well, and that's the favorable comments.
Okay, thank you. And I knew that there's depending on the location of any of these land division issues or disparate commenting agencies, but there is a specific line in here that says favorable comments were received from the Township of Admaston Bromley. Perhaps going forward, if they just provided some clarity, because when I'm reading that, it leaves one with the impression that we've already done what we're about to do. Anyway, anything further? Seeing nothing, all in favor? That is carried. And once again, Councillor Gurley.
Moved by myself, seconded by Brian Hamilton, be it resolved that Admaston Bromley Council accept in principle consent application B 123/22 submitted by Leo Anthony Haas, so long as requirements of commenting agencies are satisfied.
Thank you once again, Councillor. This one is a little bit more complicated. Did you wish to speak to this, Ms. Charkavy?
Yeah, so this one's a little different now. Obviously, the commenting agencies probably would have sent back favorable comments. However, there is a notice and that goes out to the properties that are within a proximity, and there is a neighbor that's appealing this consent application. From the township's perspective, we have no issues with the application. However, it is going before land division in the next week or couple of weeks.
Thank you, Ms. Charkavy. I think that it is certainly not for the proponent, I'm sure, but I think that there is some advantage for council to actually be exposed to this early in this term. Because ultimately the township does not have concerns, the planners do not have concerns, there are no commenting agencies that have concerns. However, given now that there is an adjudication required because there has been a neighboring property owner that is within the sphere, if you will, that is provided that opportunity. Now it goes to the Land Division Committee, which is 3 councillors of the county. Typically, I think, I'm not sure if it's quarterly, they don't meet regularly, or semi-regularly, I guess, when they have quite a number of these to do. What I will say is I have been through this myself. Mine, the actual commenting agency that had concerns was MTO. That it is still a very accessible adjudication that is the Land Division Committee. They will be hearing these in Pembroke. Both the proponent and the opponent are afforded the opportunity to present their cases of why they have legitimacy and to make the decision on the spot. I'm assuming that probably both parties, if they feel aggrieved, would have opportunity to appeal this perhaps to the LPAT. But in any event, I think it is good to understand that there is, even in these instances where there is adjudication, that first level is very local, and I will further provide that I was successful when it went through the Land Division Committee. They did feel that the opposition did not warrant the proscription against giving the severance. So, having heard all of that, any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Just a second here. That concludes the business from the Planning and Economic Development Committee. Thank you, Councillor Gurley. There is nothing from the Community Services Committee this evening. We'll go directly to the Operations Committee. And Councillor Hamilton, I believe you have the first resolution.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gurley. Be it resolved that the council received the Public Works December 2022 report as information.
Thank you. And with that, Mr. Wyszynski, I will yield the floor to you if there are things that you wish to bring particularly to council's attention.
Excuse me, there's not an overly lot for December. It was kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature. The first part started out really well, actually, and we got a lot of extra brushing done, so I was really happy with staff for that. It put us ahead quite a bit for the spring of 2023 when we start that procedure again. The end of December, though, kind of changed. We had 8 winter events, and that kept us busy, so it went from snow plowing, sanding, to fixing trucks to get back out to do it again. That's kind of where our winter will keep going.
All right, thank you. I do note when we get to the BCR, the Budgetary Control Report, notwithstanding that we did conclude the year, I'm presuming that I recognize as there was a cautionary tale in the administration BCR that this is not the year end, but I'm assuming we have a pretty good accounting for the events right up through December 31st, and yet we still came in under budget. So kudos certainly to you, Mr. Wyszynski, and your staff. I think also very fortunate to that we didn't have substantially more events, both in the Q1 and Q4. So notwithstanding the significant workload that came at the end of the year, very pleased still to see that. Any further questions or comments, Council? All in favor? That is carried. And once again, Councillor Hamilton, I am navigating my way around the new system here.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gurley. Be it resolved that the council received the job cost expenditure report December 31st, 2022.
Thank you once again, Councillor Hamilton. Back to you as well. I will certainly note one thing. I'm very pleased at the innovation of the notes and the numbered notes on the side. I found them to be very helpful, Mr. Brzezinski. Anyway, the floor is yours.
Basically, thank you for that. Hopefully that kind of did clear everything up. I tried to give as much information there as possible ahead of time. The only thing I was really happy of this year, as was the coal patching. All the work we definitely did in 2021 certainly showed off in the savings there. So that was allowing us to get the more brushing, like I spoke of, done this year. Really, if there's any more questions that you haven't read, please feel free to ask.
All right, thank you. Council, certainly at Mr. Brzezinski's invitation, any questions or comments on any item on the BCR? I know I had, seems like I have a couple. On page 43 of the report, I note the note with respect to the signs. So there were a substantial number replaced that it exceeded the budget. Did we experience a failure rate more than anticipated?
It was rather large. We were kind of going back to our original. So the very first time we did our sign reflectivity testing, we did change all of our stop signs, yield signs, chevrons, corner signs. So this time was more based on the smaller ones. We didn't pick up speed signs. Yeah, it was a little bit more than expected for sure. Also entailed in that, though, is our civic signs, road names as well. So we did have a lot of theft this year, I would say, more than normal. So it does cost every time. That falls underneath them too, right? So, yes.
Can't keep shoot-a-buck.
We don't put shoot-a-buck up anymore.
Oh, that's good to hear, because we simply cannot hold on to that one. Yes. It appears to me, at least on the routes that I travel, that our stop signs are much less of a target practice.
Touch wood so far, yes, this year.
Very pleased to hear that as well. Do we just, while we're speaking of this, do we have some sense of what the life expectancy is of the adequate reflection?
Oh, it'd be quite some time. Like we tested signs that were probably 15, 20 years old and past. So now with the new material on them, it's quite a bit longer for sure. Okay,
very pleased to hear that. I think it's on the bottom of the next page. Oh, yeah. So vehicle 34, certainly your note identifies what was driving the overage, because it's just under 50%, about 45%. So once again, I guess the question is, all of these things needed to be repaired, but are we finding premature wear? Are we being challenged with this particular vehicle? Is this the oldest now of the pickups?
It is the oldest of the fleet. Some of the wiring issues happened with the sander. I don't know why it happened, but it did cost some extra money there. Brakes and tires, like I say, they're kind of, well, tires are predictable. Brakes, you don't inspect them all the time, but just unexpected failures. Nothing out of the ordinary. Costs of things nowadays definitely climbing. I don't know if prime example, we had a headlight go in our 1-ton truck here. They're LEDs now. You don't change a light bulb anymore. To purchase a headlight was $1,700 for one headlight. So it's pretty extreme in certain cases.
Yes, the only alternative is daytime use only, I guess.
If it would only pass safety.
That seems to be unholy, frankly, that amount of money for a headlamp. My hand was shaking a little bit as I was putting my autograph on that one.
Trust me, we tried every wrecking yard around the country before we went to that option.
Oh, I'll check my backyard next time. In any event, any further questions or comments on the PW BCR? Councillor Gurley.
Just one you mentioned before about the grader being down. Does that come into repairs, or is that going to be a budget 2023 issue?
I'm hoping I was going to speak with Mr. Hamilton on this about having a committee meeting that we can discuss that further.
Sort of.
Yeah, there'll be some options that council will have to decide on.
Good.
Thank you. Once again, anything further? Seeing not, all in favor? Carried. That concludes operations. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. There is nothing this evening from Waste Management Committee. Directly into Finance and Administration. Councillor Gourley, I believe you have the first resolution, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that Council approve the December 2022 payment register listing.
Thank you very much. And with that, I presume, Mr. O'Reilly, you would speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor Donoghue. The payment register itself, there's an appendix to it, which is a spreadsheet that I started last month that provides a bit of an explanation for the larger dollar items and any unusual items. If you look at that appendix, you'll see that 93.7% of the total expenditures for the month are explained in that page and a half. So just if there's other items that I haven't already highlighted, or if you require clarification of some of the explanations, I'll be glad to respond to those.
Thank you very much. And once again, I think that does speed things along. If there is an anticipation of any questions on what these may be specific to. However, it is not to limit any questions or comments from council. Are there any? I see none. All in favor? That is carried. And once again, Councillor Gourley.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that Council accepts the Budgetary Control Report to December 30th, 2022 as information.
Thank you very much. And once again, Mr. O'Reilly, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The control report this month, I focused on trying to provide explanations for the details in the current month column. Previously, I provided details on year-to-date information since it was the first time that this council had seen that type of report. So it's more just explaining what's happened in the month of December. A lot of it's fairly straightforward. You can see under grants that we did get the next to last payment from the ICIP for the Kennelly Road project, $257,000. There was a holdback, which kind of surprised me because the transfer payment agreement didn't provide for a holdback, but that did flow through just last week, another $106,000. So that project and the funding associated with it is now completed. You'll note that we got a recycling grant installment 3. And the province, of course, goes on a fiscal year that goes April 1st to March 31st. It doesn't align with our January 1st to December 31st. So their fourth payment will come in March, but we do provide for it in our accounting at the end of the year. As Mayor Donoghue said, there is a little notation at the top of the first page that says these are draft figures. Up until today, we're still getting in invoices for 2022, and we try to accrue as many as we can back into that year. And there are many year-end adjustments that have to be done prior to the auditor starting there. So just a cautionary tale. Other than that, I think the explanations are somewhat self-explanatory, but if there are any questions at all, once again, I'll be glad to respond to them.
Thank you so much, Mr. O'Reilly. So, Council, any questions, comments on the administration BCR? Couple. First is a comment. Very pleased at the, curiously, when one makes the rules, you can change the rules apparently on a whim with respect to holdbacks. I guess maybe they wanted to make sure of our performance. Also pleased, the $106,000, I'm presuming the final installment is not part of the report, because ultimately on the grants I had a question is what is outstanding. The 106 is more than the 99,000 that was outstanding, so in fact that should be in a surplus position, presumably?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wondered if also, Mr. O'Reilly, you could expand a little bit on the other revenue, because it does have a substantial impact on the very bottom line, i.e. surplus deficit, on the explanation on the reclassification of debenture proceeds.
This is an operating item that creates a lot of confusion for not just staff, but council. Like it's not, should just say not just council, but staff as well.
To be fair, so usually I can't speak for council, maybe they all got it.
This is probably one of those premature entries I made. I should have waited until I was getting it ready for the auditors. But basically, a municipality has to budget almost on a cash basis. We have to budget not just for our operating expenditures and our capital expenditures, but also our debt repayment. Now, if you're a business owner, the only expense that you're allowed to claim is the interest on your debt. But in the case of municipality, we have to budget for the principal payment and the interest. So we budget both halves of it. So when we get a debenture isn't income in the sense that you've sold something or you've taxed something. It's a cash flow item to offset an expenditure you've already made. Typically, it'll show up in your balance sheet as a debt owing back to the province. And that's what I've done. I've moved it to the balance sheet too soon and didn't move the revenue. Going forward, if I'm here beyond the end of next Friday, I would like to see the presentation of this report change so that it would have, here's down to a certain point, here's your operating revenue or your total operating surplus. And beyond that are going to be things that if you get to take a bank loan out or a debenture or you make a principal repayment on a debenture, those aren't typically operating expenditures or revenues, but they are ones that the township has to budget for to make sure there's enough tax revenue raised to meet your debt obligations, if that helps.
It certainly does. Thank you. Most appreciative of that. Is this the shorthand, and we've moved so far past it that it's probably lost meaning, even if you did sit on, is this kind of a PSAB related?
Absolutely.
Okay,
It's always
thank you.
PSAB. And just on that, the other thing I would like to see moving forward is that when you look at taxation on the very first line of the first page, it shows that we have taxation of $4.6 million. That's misleading. That's total taxation, including schools and county. And I'm more familiar with strictly reporting the municipal portion. And towards the end of the report, say, here's the county levy, and here's the county payment, and the net is zero. And here's the school levy, and here's the school payment, the net zero. But to start with that total taxation, and then I have to go down to the second last section on page 2, here's where the payments go back out to the counties and schools. Really, they have nothing to do with the operation of the municipality. It's just we are the tax collector and the taxpayer. So I'd like to see that change as well so that, first glance, hey, our tax revenue is $4.6 million. No, the tax revenue for the municipality is $2.3 million. The part that we can use to pay the operating costs and meet our obligations is half that number. So it's somewhat misleading the way it's presented, and I'd like to see if I can improve that moving forward as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. O'Reilly, and for council's information, PSAB refers to Public Sector Accounting Board. You would know the specific years. I'm going to say like 08, 09, 10, sometime around there. The rules with respect to how municipalities accounted for their expenditures, revenues, et cetera, was changed at the time. I think that it visited a pretty significant trauma on municipalities, but I think in the end, it is absolutely the appropriate way, not least of which is it ensures that councils at all times are confronted with the invisible cost of depreciation, amortization, that it has to be seen that you do not get surprised by significant capital outlays. So thank you for the explanation. Often that's referred to as own use. You may bump into that. You will definitely bump into that. Own use tax revenues. In fact, I think the financial information return specifically refers to that, separating it out from the gross down to the net. The only other question I had, Mr. O'Reilly, and it's a very small amount of money, but I am wondering at the what drove the overage on recreation. I thought typically we had certainty on our recreation expense. It's on page 55.
Yeah, I apologize, I don't have an answer for that, but I will
That's
certainly
fine.
research and circulate an email to council.
Typically, I would have had opportunity to have provided this question in advance of the council. I just found that my time was significantly constrained this week, so thank you. Anything further, council? Seeing none, all in favor?
I might be able to answer that. That might be because we owed bond. Oh, imagine telling me to turn on my microphone. That might be because we had to pay Bonnechere Valley a little bit. We had an overlap, so we left our agreement with Bonnechere Valley, but we couldn't end with them until April, and then we started with Renfrew earlier, and we brought on McBain. So I do believe that's part of it.
Okay, I much appreciate that answer. And in the end, I guess this is like, what, 0.1% of our total budget. It is not the dollar amount, but I just was curious. Anyway, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. O'Reilly.
I had an opportunity, I did bring a detailed report with you. You get a summary report The variance is tied to the insurance related to recreation. So the budget for that line was $3,300, and the actual cost of insurance was $5,700.
Okay, hardly surprising.
And
I
you
think the
don't-
go-to, you're probably safe with the go-to of, oh, it's insurance.
Yeah.
On most of these things, it would be a small, because we are seeing, and in fact, we're likely to see substantial increase moving forward. You had more to add, Mr. O'Reilly?
I'd just say that often expenses like that don't show up until you get to the 12th month because you're typically under budget. Again, the reports that the system generates is the total annual budget and year-to-date expenditures. So in June, technically you have half your expenditures, but you've got 100% of the budget. So you're always under budget until you get to November, December, and all of a sudden, oh, now we're getting tight to the line. And that's something else the system can't do, and I think I can, through a series of spreadsheets, generate a budget that's prorated for the number of months that have gone by in the year.
Thank you. Most appreciative. Moving on then, where are we here? Councillor Field, I believe you have the next resolution for item 11C.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Legree, whereas the Township has received a request for support from the Sunshine Coach Service both financially and by bylaw. Now therefore be it resolved that Council approve bylaw 2023-09, being a bylaw to declare support for the Sunshine Coach Service and agree that the town of Renfrew will receive and be responsible for dedicated gas tax refunds on behalf of the Township, and that a financial contribution will be made on an annual basis.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to this, Ms. Charkeby?
Yeah, for the new council members, this is an item that we do annually. There is a gas tax. We get gas tax funding, and then there's gas tax for specialized transportation. Sunshine Coach is one of our specialized transportations in the area. We have to pass by bylaw that we will take that money and give it to the town of Renfrew, who then oversees it. And also, we have committed to giving them $600 annually. Sunshine Coach will be coming here on our second monthly meeting in February to give an overview of what services they provide. That's it.
Thank you. And perhaps this is our first time trip through this. So gas tax, thankfully the federal government had been providing us gas tax, which seems like it was just a name that they assigned to it. I don't think it was coming directly out of gas tax proceeds. It has now been, or I think as of last year, 2022, renamed the Canada Community Building Fund. Which is a substantial amount of funding that actually has to come through AMO, who administers that, because the federal government doesn't have any direct relationship with municipalities as the province does. So thankfully that's changed, because this is speaking to, and this is the monies from transit funding in Ontario are raised through the provincial gas tax. Councillor Gurley, I'm sure you are acutely aware. For anyone else, on your fuel bills, you may see, I believe it's 14 cents. And I think still the province is consistent as 2 of those 14 cents are allocated to this gas tax fund that is dispersed across the province. It is, however, dispersed only for transit. So what that means is that in the county of Renfrew, there are 2 agencies. It is the Sunshine Coach in this region, i.e. I think that's shared by Horton, McNabb, Braeside, Greater Madawaska, ourselves, and possibly Whitewater. And in the Pembroke catchment area, it's Handybus, and those are transit systems that do meet the threshold of funding. So the $600 is not a substantial amount of money, but it is leveraging considerable monies. I don't know what the allocations are from the other municipalities. I'm assuming on a per capita basis they're similar. That's how it works. The very brief rant that I will have now is that I think, Councillor Gurley, you may recall I actually asked you what typically a fuel station has to pour in terms of liters of fuel to be continued to be a viable fuel station. I think 1 million liters, you might have said. I can't recall now. but I just did some rough back-of-the-envelope mathematics, and I think between the handy bus and Sunshine Coach, I think approximately $600,000 may be working its way back into the county of Renfrew. I expect that you would have probably some pretty good first-hand knowledge of what your fueling station is providing in gas tax dollars, and then you multiply that by the number of pumps that may exist across the county of Renfrew. I think when I did an analysis 5 years ago, I figured that the county of Renfrew is probably generating something in the order of $3 to $4 million in gas tax funding, and we're getting back $600,000. So that's the end of the rant, but it does also provide you some basis or some context of this. So I'm, having said that, inordinately pleased that we are still able to access this funding for this incredible service. So any further questions or comments? Yes, Mr. O'Reilly.
Yeah, if I may, because I do have some personal experience with this, because the finances are all done through the town of Renfrew. It's mentioned earlier in the report, but it's worth highlighting that the calculation of the gas tax, the allocation is based on two things: population served and actual ridership, how many people actually use the service, and that's why it's almost disproportionate. So the majority of the gas tax money goes into the City of Toronto, naturally, where they have that transit system. The reason for the grant from the municipality is the population of Admaston Bromley can only be included in the calculation of total population served if there's a monetary contribution. So if Admaston Bromley decided not to contribute, that population comes out of the mix, and correspondingly the allocation to the Sunshine Coach service reduces. So there are, as Mayor Donoghue said, all the municipalities. I think the only one you didn't mention was Bonnechere Valley as well, is part of the group. So there are 6 other municipalities, and basically what they're saying is that we don't provide a specialized transit service. However, we'll take our money, give it to Renfrew, or you can give our money to Renfrew, so that's the gas tax money, and we will support it by way of a monetary contribution on an annual basis. And then the reason for a bylaw is the Ministry of Transportation requires that a bylaw be approved by the contributing municipalities. Usually it's once every 3 or 4 years. They just ask to make sure the bylaws are up to date.
Thank you for the enhanced explanation, and I think that captures very well the environment surrounding the provincial gas tax funding. Anything further? Seeing not, all in favor? Carried. And Councillor Legree, we're getting you into the game.
Moved by myself, second by Angela Field. Be it resolved, the Council received the communication from MPP Yakubuski concerning the Ontario Communication Infrastructure Fund notice for the Township of Admaston Bromley.
Thank you, Councillor Legree. And perhaps I'll turn this over to Mr. O'Reilly. I believe our allocation for 2022 was $500,000. So it's a fairly substantial increase over prior years. I will note, I'm pretty sure I actually created a spreadsheet, but I don't know where the hell I put it on my hard drive, so you're not going to hear it. But I think it's up substantially, like it's up significantly over 2022, but I think it's up substantially over like 2020 and 2021. If memory serves, I think we're almost double what we were then. So it is certainly much less discretionary that we experience through our Ontario Municipal Partnership funding. But just the same, this is dedicated infrastructure funding. So I wonder if you wanted to speak to that, Mr. O'Reilly?
Yeah, if I may, the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund has 2 components to it. There is an allocation stream, which again is based on a number of factors. Population is one of the factors. So there's an allocation to every municipality in the province. The pot of money that's split is sort of a moving target sometimes. There have been some talk about it decreasing, but in fact it has been increasing over the years. The second stream that used to exist was one that was based on applications. So if you had a special project over and above, like it was a major project, you could apply for more OCIF money but it was much more discretionary in the part of the province, and they may get 200 applications and only approve 25 or 30 because the pot of money they had available was only so much. This is guaranteed money in the sense that that's the allocation that Admaston and Bromley will get. Historically, that money has been used to go towards some of the major capital projects, road work specifically, and that'll be coming forward as part of the capital budget when we get to that point.
Very comprehensive. Just a couple of things to add. I think we're still in the regime. So this is OCIF, Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. And as Mr. O'Reilly noted, there are two streams. One has always been referred to as the formula funding. The other is the application-based funding. I can't recall now what the percentage breakdown, like there's X dollars in the fund and a certain percentage was allocated on a funding basis, and then the balance of that fund was on an application basis and approval. For our purposes, the Kennelly Road, which we actually just concluded, I'll get there in a minute, the alphabet changed a little bit, the alphabet soup. We were, I think, 3 straight years, if not 3, at least 2, seeking OCIF application funds to complete the Kennelly Road. Were unsuccessful on at least 2, if not 3 years. Then it migrated where the federal government was now participating at all. And I think that still is in existence, and it's called ISIP, which is Investing in Canadian Infrastructure Fund Program, ISIP, correct. In any event, I think that still is the regime that's in place now where there is a shared, and in fact, the other thing that I have to add, when it was the application-based, I'm not sure if that was a 70-30 split. Right now, through ISIP application, it's like 90-10 or 95-5. There is a very significant upper-level contribution.
93.7.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. In any event, then, to finally conclude that, when we finally, because there had been some works ongoing on the Kennelly Road in those years that we were unsuccessful, that when we finally received funding through ISIP now, instead of OCIF, not only did we pave the Kennelly Road, but we also paved the South McNaughton from the bridge to, what's the name of the road at the bottom of the hill? Right to Bonashare? Okay.
Sorry.
Dunfield, just below the hill, for those familiar, just below Bob Stewart's. So that one, we got some pretty good leverage out of that. In any event, still very pleased to receive this, and if we have some significant infrastructure programs or expenditures anticipated, we do remain eligible to apply for much larger sums as well. Mr. O'Reilly.
One final comment, if I may. The municipality is not obligated to spend that money in a particular year. You can, in fact, roll it forward. So if you have a project that's worth $1 million, you might want to save this year's money and then combine it with the 2024 money so you have enough to pay for the whole thing. So you can roll it forward, but there is a restriction on to how long you can roll it forward because you have to do annual reporting saying, excuse me, here's how much we've retained. You have to add interest to it, so you have to allocate interest out of your bank account to that as though you had it in a separate bank account, and then keep reporting as to how you're using it. And if it's in there for more than, I think that, don't hold me to it, I believe it's 5 years, that after 5 years, if you haven't used the first year's money, that you do in fact have to pay it back. I've never heard of that happening.
Nobody that sits on this side of the room has an appetite for sending money back to the province or the federal government. You can be sure of that. Anyway, any questions or comments, Council? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. That concludes Finance and Administration. We have nothing from Protective Services or the County of Renfrew bylaws. Councillor Legree, I believe you have this.
Moved by myself, second by Angela Field. Be it resolved that that Council adopt the following bylaws: 2023-08, Appointment of Committee of Adjustment; 2023-09, Dedicated Gas Tax Sunshine Coach.
Thank you, Councillor Gurley. Legree. We had opportunity when we were first resolving to adopt these bylaws for questions. I will provide one more opportunity. Any further question or comment? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. And I believe, Councillor Legree, you have the next one, action tracking list. Oh, sorry. Oh, it is old business. Yes, please do carry on.
Moved by myself, second by Angela Field. Be it resolved that council receive the action tracking list. The action tracking list as information.
Thank you. And with that, Ms. Charkavy, I see a few of these have been shaded in.
So the action tracking list hasn't actually changed. Last meeting, I told you I couldn't remember what I was supposed to do because had a cold. But I wanted to highlight the asset management plan and the joint roads review. So we've been in contact with both consultants. We're waiting for, we've been told we're going to receive those plans very shortly, and we'll be sharing them with council to review. We did receive a draft asset management plan that we had to receive it. We had to submit it to the province by July 1st. But there were quite a few things that we needed to have fixed in them, so we went back with the consultant back and forth for the last little while. Jamie Doring was working with both these companies, so we're hoping to bring those forward very, very shortly. So we've been in contact with the consultants, and those will be coming forth soon.
There we go. I am muted. Any questions or comments? Councillor Gurley.
Just curious what the leg report to committee is.
So the leg report came out from 2018 when Premier Ford's government was going to take away the UMP funding, which we had just talked about. And then he provided the UMP funding back, but there was a requirement that municipalities work together. So it's a local efficiency group. So the leg group for our areas made up of us and our neighbors. Our joint roads review is within that leg group. So we get together, we meet, and we try to come up with ideas how to be more efficient. Those leg group meetings happened mostly, they started pre-pandemic and then went through the pandemic, and then just coming up with some strategies. I think some of the things worked best. Mayor Donahue was in on them, and so was Mr. O'Reilly.
Yeah, and LEG is Local Efficiency Group as the starting point, and that's what it was referred to. I don't recall, I'm not disagreeing, I don't recall so much that there was an overt representation by the province that the OMF was going to be cut, but there was, at the very least, absolutely, there is a perception amongst the last council, the last term of council, that we can anticipate that the likelihood. And the reason for that is over the 4 years just ended with the most recent election, I suppose the buzzword bingo was modernization. Everything was modernization, modernization. Having said that, I mean, the province was actually flying money out the door to engage consultants to find efficiencies where you could. I thought that the standing up of the leg group was outstanding. In my perception, there was not a robust engagement with potential changes, but for low-hanging fruit, and there were certainly some steps taken. I will note that just our annual, as separate from the expansion of the Osceola landfill, we are required on an annual basis to do monitoring at each of our waste sites. And we did find substantial savings, notwithstanding that it is in fact the same agency, JP2G, that was doing our compliance reporting and continue to do so, and we did that in collaboration with Whitewater Region and did realize some significant savings on that. What this is speaking to particularly, and the leg, by the way, pretty much encompassed all of the southern, if you want to call them that, municipalities in the county of Renfrew, I guess, everything kind of south of Bonnechere Valley, but inclusive of Whitewater Region. So I know that there were other initiatives, say with wastewater or water treatment, that were not germane to our municipality at all. Those discussions are happening. This one specifically, that is on the action tracking list was in collaboration, I believe, now with Whitewater and Greater Madawaska to identify where we might be able to find some savings, some efficiencies. I know that staff have been, there's been a robust engagement with staff and several iterations of this, but it's just not quite ready to get to council. But that's what this specifically is, and it's germane only to Public Works in this. But it's kind of set in place the framework, I guess, where we could begin to have these conversations. Okay. Anything further? I will attest that I am inordinately pleased that we will expect them shortly, because I had begun to wonder if both WSCS and Dillon might have been abducted by aliens or something, or disappeared off the face of the planet, because this is, we're 7 months past, I guess, on July 1st. Anyway, very pleased to see that moving forward. I know that there's been an incredible amount of work by yourself, Mr. Wyszynski, and by Mr. Deering in his time here, so thank you for that. All in favor? Carried. Any new business this evening? Councillor Greer.
I'd just like to note that I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting. Looks to be a good group of people to work with. They do have some new stuff going on. Apparently the old OPP station is being retrofitted for the Commerce and the Chamber, and it's going to be considered more of a business hub. Looks to be a lot more of opportunity coming to them, and they're kind of excited. It's very new. Don't have much details about it, but it was worth mentioning. Going forward, I think they're excited for the growth of Renfrew and the surrounding areas. So we're kind of working on ways to bring in new businesses and kind of redevelop basically more how to market themselves in the area. So that's it for that.
That's very pleased to hear that. It sounds like it's a much more muscular approach that's being taken. So the Chamber will be vacating the space by the library downtown and moving out there?
They're currently in the hall itself. They're already vacated.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yes, so
okay.
this will be their next home once I guess they're putting it out for bidding for the retrofitting and stuff. So
maybe it won't be like the 1980s vintage chairs and things. Maybe you never sat in those. In my time there, it was
looks all new, and like I said, it's a lot more promise coming and more opportunity.
Outstanding. Very pleased to hear that. Thank you. I was inviting you, Councillor Hamilton, I think, and I just want to make sure that what you were going to present, like this is known to the recipients. Do carry on then, please.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Donoghue. Under no business, I just wanted to give a quick report. I had my first library board meeting. Interesting group of folks and very dedicated to their cause and their pursuit of the library in Douglas. Two things. Their cheese fundraiser netted them $600 in profits. They are feverishly working on doing a trivia night, and by all accounts, it's going to be in the Preston Call Barn on the 24th of March for fundraising for the library. That was of note. Activities coming up in the foreseeable future for the board. They have corresponded with draft budgeting requests and are working on that, but hope to do more work on that in the upcoming months. The second item I'd like to bring to the Township of Admaston Bromley some good news about a couple of our residents, actually maybe even three. Stuart and Vera McBride, and Dennis and Diane Briscoe, and Joel Rollins have been all nominated and acclaimed or processed to receive induction into the Agricultural Wall of Fame on the 11th of March at the Armories in Renfrew. All three of those recipients own property in Admaston Bromley. Two of them reside here. the McBrides and the Briscoes are well known. Gerald, I learned this morning, has property on the other end of the township, but he resides in Laurentian Valley, and that's where he hails from. Gerald was representing the beef industry. Dennis and Diane, their allocates to their dairy and their Holstein breeding and community involvement on many levels, fair boards in other words. Same with the McBrides. I don't know what is traditional. I would like to recommend that we recognize them with a letter of congratulations or something, or I have approached the chair after a conversation earlier. They will be sending an email on that verification that we can work with Mr. Donahue and council, hopefully by the weekend, they said, to the township that they are officially aware.
Thank you very much for bringing that forward, and congratulations to those folks. For those who may be unaware, I think it's a Galbraith room is upstairs at the Renfrew Armories. Don't know how many farm webinars, workshops that I've attended up there. If you have been there, you will note on, I guess it's the southwest wall, perhaps, quite a number of recipients dating back quite some time, recognizing significant contribution, in particular to agriculture and our agricultural community here in the Ottawa Valley, or in Renfrew County, I guess, more specifically. And the custom, as you had suggested, Councillor Hamilton, I know, I don't know if it's the most recent that I can think of was Welland Crozier. And I don't know who the other recipients were, because each of the mayors from the municipalities where the recipients resided presented certificates, as did MPP John Yakubuski and MP Cheryl Gallant on behalf of the federal and provincial governments. So we will certainly do that. I should remember, but I do not. What is the agency that has the auspices to make these awards, Councillor Hamilton?
I don't believe it has changed, but since its inception, every 3 years, a representative of all the agricultural groups get invited to present somebody within their organization or their community for consideration for nomination to the wall. They are reviewed by a committee of representatives of the ag community. Usually the vice presidents of every committee meet collectively to review and score and evaluate the applications and consider them and not consider them. It started originally as a yearly event, went to every other year, and most recently in the last 3, it's went to 3-year terms. There is a significant amount of people. I believe the first year we put in 9 individuals, but they're capping it now to 3 every 3 years for consideration. So most view it as it's a recognition by their peers mainly, and to achieve it, most feel very humbled by that consideration.
Thank you for that. I was, and I should have known, because I have certainly participated in the past. So just particularly for those councillors who aren't necessarily heavily involved in agriculture, I'm assuming that this is both the commodity organizations, i.e. beef, dairy, poultry, hogs, etc., but it also, I'm assuming, includes the GFOs, which is the general farm organizations. Here we have Federation of Agriculture, National Farmers Union, and I believe there's a Christian Farmers chapter as well. So each of those have a formal standing. So it's an informal umbrella that forms every 3 years to put this together. Anyway, congratulations to all of them, and absolutely I'll put that into my calendar. Who is the director, I suppose, the chief of staff, if you will?
Yeah, Donna Campbell from the Renfrew Federation of Agriculture is...
She's the director of everything.
Yeah, secretary treasurer of this particular group. She had promised that they would have tickets available by today, but I didn't receive an allocation yet, but I will have tickets available. I believe they are $30 a person to attend, and if you need tickets and you can't get them from your neighbors, you could always call me and I will have them available for you probably by the weekend.
Thank you for bringing that forward. There is a banquet that does accompany this. So I'm very pleased if you have the time, if you are able to join us, this will be in the Armories. Anyway, thank you for bringing that forward, Councillor Hamilton. Any further new business?
Just before I leave, I think Donna will put in her email, but it starts at 6 o'clock. But it will be all identified in the correspondence, I hope.
Well,
I
I'm
believe.
hoping also that there would be some kind of poster or something that we could put on social media, et cetera, and get the megaphone out. Also on the first item, probably all of that will be coming forward when we receive the first library report, minutes, treasurer's report, et cetera. But thank you for bringing that forward. Is there any need for closed session this evening? There is not. Councillor Hamilton, you have the confirmatory.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gurley. Be it resolved that the bylaw 2023-10 be a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Township of Admaston, Bromley at a meeting held January 19th, 2023, be now numbered, deemed read 3 times and passed.
Thank you. Council, all in favor? That is carried. Seek now, question period. Any questions that were not addressed in the meeting? I see none. Councillor Field, I believe you have the motion to adjourn, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Legree. Be it resolved that the Thursday, January 19th, 2023 Township of Admaston Bromley Council meeting be adjourned at 8:35 p.m.
Thank you. Council, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you. Hope everyone has a safe drive home. It was a bit nasty coming down.